Part 46. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 451. Not particular. Young Master Su, you are not particular. Wang Fugui glanced at Su Yang with a resentful expression, but then he took a step forward and chose to help Su Yang get down. Ahem. Wang Fugui smiled awkwardly and said, "This beauty, you are also my sister-in-law. Today's incident is really my fault. It's all my fault. It was me who led young Master Su astray." Wang Fugui continued, "Originally, young Master Su has quit the club. I insisted on treating him and forced him to go. Sister-in-law, don't be angry. Young Master Wang, don't think I don't know. You are Su Yang's younger brother. Can you force him?" Qian Shangxiu said coldly after hearing this. Huh? Wang Fugui was stunned and said in surprise, "Sister-in-law, do you know me?" At this time, Qian Shangxiu took off her white veil, her eyes fell on Wang Fugui, and smiled, "What do you think?" Fuck. Zhang Shuer. Wang Fugui's face was suddenly filled with astonishment. After reacting, he couldn't help but ask, "Didn't you be given by young Master Su 5 years ago, and then leave Jiangbei?" How? I understand. Recently, young Master Su suddenly had a son and a daughter. You must be their mother. Wang Fugui seemed to have thought of something and guessed, "So, you didn't abort the child back then, but now you come to the door with the child." "No, why are you in Wudang ancient town? Your Zhang family is just a small family, and you don't even have ancient Huajin warriors, grass." As he spoke, Wang Fugui suddenly noticed that Qian Shangxiu's body was exuding terrifying energy fluctuations. "Even though I am now a cultivator at the 8th level of Qi training, I still feel frightened when facing Qian Shan Snow, and I don't even dare to look directly at it." Why are you so strong, Zhang Shuer, who are you?" Wang Fugui asked curiously, while swallowing in fear. "Zhang Shuer is my pseudonym. My real name is Qian Shangxiu, and I am the leader of the 9 sects in southern Anhui." Wang Fugui is an old friend, so Qian Shangxiu naturally didn't hide anything and said, "Young Master Wang, I know your relationship with Su Yang. Don't explain it to him. It's meaningless." "Ha!" Wang Fugui sneered, then patted Su Yang on the shoulder and said helplessly, "Young Master Su, my good brother, there is nothing I can do. Young Master Wang, okay, you can get along with me just like my eldest cousin. If something comes up, I'll take note of it." Su Yang first staged a show of brotherly love, then looked at Qian Shangxiu and smiled softly, "Shuer, there is a reason for this." "Humph, I want to hear what you have to say." Qian Shangxiu lowered his head, looked at Su Yuyu, and said, "Yuyu, you go play with Uncle Wang for a while, and your dad and I will talk alone." "Yeah." Su Yuyu nodded, then obediently walked to Su Yang and followed her, opening her arms for a hug. With a doting look on her face, Su Yang directly picked up her daughter and kissed her. "Yuyu, do you miss Dad?" Su Yang smiled. "Yeah, I really want to." Su Yuyu hugged Su Yang's neck and was reluctant to let go. "By the way, Dad, I picked a lot of fruits for you and put them in the inn where we stayed. You can go back with us later and I'll give them to you to eat. The fruits I picked are so sweet." "Haha, okay, you should still be filial." Su Yang dotingly rubbed his daughter's little head, then with a thought, he released Suzeng. Unexpectedly, as soon as Suzeng came out of the storage ring, he fell directly on the banana peel and fell flat on his face. "Day. Who is throwing banana peels around with hair in their mouth?" Suzeng gritted his teeth angrily. After looking around, he was stunned. "Yuyu, why are you here, old mom?" Seeing Qian Shan Shui, Suzeng was dumbfounded for a moment, his calves were weak from fear, and his face was immediately filled with a flattering smile. "Hey, Mom, good evening." "I'm not good." Qian Shangxiu stared at Suzing, with a cold expression, and said in a deep voice, "Didn't I warn you not to say bad words anymore? What the hell, who did you learn from?" When Suzing saw this, his face turned pale with fright, and he pointed at Su Yang without hesitation. But after seeing his father's threatening gaze, Suzing immediately pointed at Wang Fuegui. "Outside Wudang ancient town. Humph, I'll deal with you later." Qian Shangxiu snorted coldly, and then said coldly, "Su Yang, come with me, let's talk." "Mom, don't give me face, just teach Dad a lesson. If you don't fight, it won't work." As he said that, Suzing did not forget to stir up trouble in the middle, and he did not think it was too big a deal to watch the excitement. At this time, Qian Shangxiu's attitude was much better, and he was completely gone from the coldness just now. It was obvious that he was pretending before and deliberately brought Su Yang to a place where there was no one. Wang Fuegui was shocked. "Why should I take the blame? I feel so wronged." "Good. What the hell, Dad, have you made Mom angry?" "Yeah." Qian Shangxiu left behind a word, and the figure disappeared. Wherever it passed, the ground was covered with frost, making it chilly. "Damn it, little brother, don't point your fingers, you want to kill me." Su Yuyu was very well behaved, and then whispered, "Dad, actually Mom misses you very much. She just looks fierce. Just say a few nice words to coax her." "Sister, don't call him uncle. He is my eldest brother. You should call him eldest brother too." "Su Yang, okay, come with me." Su Yang had a dark face, wishing he could slap himself in the face and reflect on himself. "How long is a while?" "Master, you must not be embarrassed. You must persist for at least 2 hours." Ali looked at Su Yang's background and whispered. After hearing the general idea, Suzing immediately gloated and said, "Ha ha ha, Dad, you deserve it. You fucked my brains out, and you locked me in a ring." Su Yang nodded and smiled softly. "The reason why I want to enter Chunguang Tower is because I noticed something strange." "Ahem." Su Yang nodded. Then he put Su Yuyu down and said with a gentle smile, "Yuyu, Dad will hug you later. Protect Yo-Yo and Zing, we will be back soon." "Schwer is really smart, you can tell at a glance." "Master, when we meet again after a long absence, Mrs. Schwer will definitely want to meet you." Giggles, "You must behave well at this time." Ali next to him smiled charmingly. "Haha, good daughter, you are worthy of being daddy's little cotton-padded jacket." Su Yang stroked his daughter's pigtails, his heart melting with her cuteness. "No, no, no, sister, don't hit me. I have delicious food in my bag, top quality by Kodan." "Who is your sister, Suzeng?" "I am the sister. You care about food but not about beatings, right? Do you want to be beaten again?" Su Yang smiled awkwardly, and then followed Qian Shangxiu's pace. Su Yang and Qian Shangxiu stood opposite each other, with a distance of 3 or 4 meters between them. At this time, "Hello, Uncle Wang, my name is Su Yuyu, and Su Yang is my father." Su Yuyu and Suzing couldn't understand what Ali was talking about. At this moment, Su Yuyu greeted Ali first, and then greeted Wang Fuegui. "How the hell do I have a son like you? Su Yang, you seemed to have something to say just now, but it was inconvenient. Can you say it now?" "It has to be said that this kid Suzing has a future. He is flexible, he can do anything he can't do, and he is the first to give up, and he quickly makes Su Yuyu happy, so naturally he doesn't need to be beaten." Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 452. Weird. Hearing this, Qian Shangxiu's beautiful jade face showed a hint of doubt, and she frowned slightly and said, "What's strange?" "Death." Su Yang said truthfully, "There is a faint air of death permeating the Chunguang Tower, which is definitely not what a normal ancient warrior should have. What death energy? My strength is much higher than yours, why didn't I notice it? Jian Shangxiu said bluntly. Su Yang's eyes fell on Jian Shangxiu. Although Jian Shangxiu did not use his true energy, the power emanating from his body was too terrifying, far exceeding that of the ghosts in the middle stage of Shen Zone. If nothing else, Jian Shangxiu's realm would be at the worst stage of the Shen Zone, or even at the peak of the Shen Zone. So, Jian Shangxiu is confident that his strength must surpass Su Yang, and this is indeed the case. However, Su Yang is a cultivator, and with the soul of the immortal emperor, his perception is amazing, so he can naturally feel things that Jian Shangxiu cannot. Shui, I admit that you are stronger than me, but some things require talent. Su Yang smiled softly and said, there is indeed death energy in Chunguang Tower, and the level of death energy is relatively high. If I read it correctly, as long as the death energy leaks out, ancient warriors below the Tian Zone within 100 miles, there must be no one left alive. Even those above the Tian Zone will be affected. The true energy in their bodies will be eroded by anger and lose part of their combat effectiveness. Su Yang said firmly, although the other party has stored his anger in a special way, it cannot escape my perception. Shui, in the ancient martial arts world, are there any forces that rely on death energy to fight their enemies? Su Yang asked. Have. After listening to Su Yang's words, Jian Shangxiu's face instantly became serious and he said, more than 100 years ago, a super powerful demon cultivator appeared in the world. That demonic cultivator is said to be a cultivator. What he practices is anger to death. I heard from my grandpa that the death energy he releases can poison hundreds of miles, causing not even a blade of grass to grow within 100 miles. This devil cultivator is very ambitious and established a section. He created an extremely powerful sect called Gaiming sect, which is the biggest cancer in the ancient martial arts world. Jian Shangxiu continued, however, more than 100 years ago, it was the era of your great-grandfather Su Wuzi. Back then, he single-handedly subdued the leader of the Gaiming sect, caused the sect to fall apart, and killed all those who practiced magic. Jian Shangxiu said with lingering fear, Su Yang, the anger you feel has nothing to do with Gaiming sect, right? Demon cultivator? Ghost sect? Su Yang paused, then reacted. The leader of the Gaiming sect mentioned by Jian Shangxiu is probably the demon cultivator imprisoned on the second floor of the Void Tower. No wonder I feel that the death energy in the Chunguang Tower is somewhat familiar. It turns out that it is exactly the same as the death energy exuded by the guy in the Void Tower. Su Yang suddenly realized, and then said secretly, now, I am still relatively weak and cannot easily open the Void Tower. If I want to enter the second level with my spiritual consciousness, it will consume a lot of money. Therefore, after regaining control of the Void Tower, I have not explored the third level. Void Tower. However, at this moment, there is death energy in the Chunguang Tower. This matter cannot be taken carelessly. If it is leaked, there will be no grass growing for hundreds of miles. It seems that it is necessary to enter the second floor of the Void Tower tonight and ask the old devil for details. Thinking of this, Su Yang made up his mind and planned to give it a try by consuming his spiritual consciousness. Certainly. He was not worried about the impact on him. After asking about it, the old devil's soul would have no use value. When the time comes, Su Yang can devour it to make up for the loss of his spiritual power. Su Yang. At this time, Jian Shangxiu saw that Su Yang did not answer, so he asked again, can you describe the death energy in Chunguang Tower in detail? Shui. Su Yang reacted and smiled softly, I just said it casually. Maybe I made a mistake. Don't worry. Yeah. Seeing the huge contrast between Su Yang's front and back, Jian Shangxiu was doubtful and said seriously, Su Yang, most of the young talents in the ancient martial arts world are now in Wudane Mountain. There will be nothing wrong here. If you really notice the Chunguang Tower, If there is any abnormality, you must tell me truthfully, and I will immediately notify the Wudane leader and the powerful people from all parties to go to the Chunguang Tower to find out. It's not that exaggerated, it's just a little bit dead. I told you not to worry, just put your heart in your stomach. Su Yang smiled softly. Seeing this, Qian Shangxiu nodded, and then his eyes fell on Su Yang. He smiled and said, Su Yang, you are so surprising. The last time we met, you were Su Xiantian. At that time, you were just an earthly person's own. It's only been so long, I didn't expect you to have grown to where you are now. Qian Shangxiu then smiled and said, in Kyoto, you killed the protector of the Iron Fist sect and destroyed Prince Ping's mansion. After returning to Jiangbei, you killed Zhang Changshen, who was half a step closer to the Shenzong realm, took away his sword, and then killed you one after another. The ancient Red Moon of Sandong Bridge, Du Mingyuan, the head of the Du family in Shenzhen, is really surprising. Su Yang touched the bridge of his nose and said with a smile, you know everything. Well, the news just reached me this morning. Qian Shangxiu looked at Su Yang and smiled softly. Su Yang, now, have you reached the threshold of Shenzong? How should I put this? My situation is quite special. In fact, I am not an ancient warrior. Su Yang did not hide anything, he released a burst of spiritual energy and said truthfully, I am a cultivator. I have now stepped onto the 9th level of Qi training and have not yet established the foundation. Cultivator. Qian Shangxiu was taken aback. After a few seconds of pause, he smiled and said, no wonder the energy you use is different. I should have thought of it earlier. Your great-great-grandfather, Senior Suwuji, is a cultivator. He has suppressed an era. How could the Su family not know the means of cultivation? Qian Shangxiu showed a smile, and then asked curiously, Su Yang, can you explain to me, what level of ancient martial arts can you deal with now? Hard to say. Su Yang smiled and said, under normal circumstances, at the 9th level of Qi training, you can kill half-step Shenzong. You can also fight against the Shenzong in its early stage. However, I have some methods, and Shenzong is no match for me in the middle stage. Going up, it will be a bit difficult, Su Yang said matter-of-factly. That's it? Qian Shangxiu smiled sincerely and said, originally, I thought that even if you participated in the 100 sex martial arts competition, you would not be able to win first place, but now it seems that you have hope. Su Yang, if you can defeat everyone and become the number one person in the 100 sex martial arts competition this year, then you will be the leader of the Ancient Martial Arts Alliance and lead the entire ancient martial arts world. Qian Shangxiu said angrily, so, you must go all out. Su Yang asked doubtfully, is there any connection between the number one in the 100 sex martial arts competition and the leader of the Ancient Martial Arts Alliance? Of course. Upon hearing this, Qian Shangxiu told Su Yang everything about the agreement between the major forces. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 453. I see. Su Yang nodded as if he understood, and then smiled and said, my great-grandfather is the leader of the Gwu Alliance. As his descendant, I have to be the leader of the alliance to bring the Su family back to glory. Seeing Su Yang's high spirits, Qian Shangxiu was stunned. It was the first time she saw Su Yang like this. But, after coming back to his senses, Qian Shangxiu reminded, Su Yang, your strength has a chance to win the first place, but your identity is too special. In addition, you are a cultivator. Once this news is known to those old immortals in the ancient martial arts world, you will be in big trouble. Qian Shangxiu continued, last time I called you, I reminded you, is there really a strong foundation around you? Su Yang nodded and smiled. The girl wearing a tight leather jacket next to me just now, her name is Ali, have you noticed? Then let me tell you. Su Yang looked at Jian Shangxiu and asked seriously, I just want to know, are you using me, or do you really have a crush on me? Jian Shangxiu continued, of course, in order to prevent two or more powerful people from being assigned to the same track, the remaining people will not be eliminated. Jian Shangxiu met Su Yang's gaze, raised the corners of her mouth, and said meaningfully, what do you think? Jian Shangxiu reminded, Su Yang, all the major sects covet the position of leader, so they will not hide their clumsiness and will send their strongest disciples to compete. As far as I know, there are many Shen sects among them, and maybe there will be middle and late Shen sections. You have to be careful. When Jian Shangxiu heard this, he was shocked at first, then breathed a sigh of relief and said, this makes me feel relieved. I thought you were really so unreasonable. Cough. These more than 500 people will be divided into 12 waves and compete in 12 tracks. I do not want to answer. Jian Shangxiu said seriously, there are probably more than 500 contestants in the 100 sex competition this year. Su Yang continued, so I am confident that with her here, no one can hurt me during this trip to Wuodang. Even if my identity is exposed, I can escape unscathed. Foundation building. The third level is the same, one-on-one, 5 people advance. The sixth level is the duel between the strongest contestants this year. If you win, you will be ranked first in the 100 sex martial arts competition, and you will naturally become the leader of the Ancient Martial Arts Alliance. Jian Shansuo changed her tone and smiled, however, the only thing that remains unchanged is that you are really thick-skinned. Jian Shangxiu continued, as for the second level, it is a one-on-one competition. The loser will be eliminated and 10 people will advance. Jian Shangxiu was naturally impressed by the mention of Ali. He blushed and gritted his teeth and said, I was about to say this, Su Yang, you came to Wuodang to participate in the 100 sex martial arts competition, and you brought such a beautiful and charming woman here to do it. What, you're not afraid that overexertion at night will affect your performance in the ring? Tell me quickly, Shuer, have you fallen in love with me? Su Yang asked. In the cultivation system, there is a huge difference between the qi refining period and the foundation building period. When you enter the foundation building period, your strength is extremely terrifying. Jian Shangxiu's beautiful face turned slightly red, and then she changed the subject. Su Yang, you don't know the rules of the 100 sex martial arts competition, right? He. Su Yang touched the bridge of his nose and said with a wry smile, Shuer, you misunderstood. Ari is what I call the strongest foundation. Seeing Jian Shangxiu's shy expression, Su Yang already had the answer in his heart, so he didn't ask again, but responded, I just arrived in Wuodang, and I haven't had time to understand it yet. Su Yang said shamelessly, and you are just a weak and helpless little pitiful person. My generous arms have given you a strong sense of security. You must have fallen in love with me accidentally, right? I'm so handsome, and besides, I was a warm-hearted man back then, and I defended you several times. Back then you hid your identity and came to Jiangbei, and then what happened to us? Shuer, since I learned your identity, I have a question in my mind. Can you answer me? Su Yang said at this time. Contestants who have not won the first place on the track can continue to compete, and finally 8 more geniuses will be selected, and the 12 first place winners will advance to the next level together. Su Yang, you have changed a lot. You have become taller and stronger, and your facial features have become stronger. In the 4th level, lots will be drawn to determine if one person will get a bye and advance directly. The remaining 4 will go one-on-one, and the loser will be eliminated. The remaining 3 will be the top 3. Even though she is young, in fact, she has already established a foundation and her strength is unfathomable. Jian Shangxiu continued, in the 5th level, the genius who had a buy in the fourth level will take the initiative to choose one person from the other two to fight, and the winner will advance to the finals. Isn't that the one responsible for taking care of you? This level is a big battle. The first place in each track will smoothly advance to the next level. Okay, you can ask. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 454. Clear. Su Yang had a rough understanding of the process of the 100 sex martial arts competition, and believed that he could reach the end. But he remembered another thing. Not long ago, Shifen mentioned Duan Mulu and said that there was a trace of power in Duan Mulu that surpassed Shenzong. Su Yang was curious at that time, and now he looked at Jian Shangxiu and asked, Shuer, what state are you in now? Shenzong is at its peak, Jian Shangxiu said truthfully, with a slightly arrogant expression. So strong. Although Su Yang had already made a guess, he was still a little surprised to hear Jian Shangxiu say it himself, and asked doubtfully, you are in your 20s this year, why are you so advanced? This is a secret technique of Zhifeng Mountain. It's complicated to say. In short, I have the strength I have now, and the internal sacrifices in Zhifeng Mountain have been great. When mentioning this matter, Jian Shangxiu's expression became slightly gloomy, but his eyes soon became firm. She always remembers her duty, which is to resolve the upcoming crisis in Zhifeng Mountain. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. I will not be ashamed of my strength, nor will I be ashamed of those who died for me. Su Yang saw that Jian Shangxiu was unwilling to elaborate, so he did not pursue the matter, but went straight to the topic. Shuer, I want to know, is there any realm above Shenzong? This. Jian Shangxiu was silent for a few seconds, then solemnly nodded and said, yes. There is a realm above the Shenzong, and its name is the Land Martial God. Jian Shangxiu said sternly, ancient warriors are different from cultivators. No matter how high they have cultivated, ancient warriors are not qualified to walk on that ancient road in the starry sky and leave the earth. But there are very few ancient warriors who use martial arts to reach the gods. Their strength can cause the earth to crack and the rivers to boil. They can already resonate with the world. These are the gods of martial arts. Jian Shangxiu continued, but because the master of martial arts cannot break the void and leave this world, he is called the Land Martial God. In the ancient martial arts system, above the Shenzong, there is the realm of Land Martial Gods. Jian Shangxiu said seriously, the strength of the Land Warrior God should not be much worse than that of a cultivator in the foundation building realm. I don't know exactly which one is stronger and which one is weaker. Land Martial God. Su Yang nodded. It seemed that Duan Mulu had touched the threshold of this realm. However, before he really set foot, he was tricked by Su Yang, which is very sad to say. Of course, Duan Mulu only touched a little bit. He doesn't have much life left, and he will definitely not be able to truly set foot in the realm of the Land Warrior God. Shuer, in the ancient martial arts world, are there any masters in the realm of Land Martial Gods? At this time, Su Yang asked. Might have. Jian Shangxiu said, Shihan in the place of Zen, the old man in Lishan between the mountains and the sea, the old poison in the depths of the clouds, the old master of Wudane Mountain, the current head of the Ximen family. In the ancient martial arts world, all the famous mountains have powerful foundations. Those people haven't fought against each other for many years, and no one knows their strength. Jian Shangxiu continued, however, over the years, some people have seen a golden giant on Mount Tai, who can hold up a small mountain with one hand. It is said that the golden giant is very similar to the leader of Mount Tai, Shihan. There are also some legends among the mountains and seas. Some people saw an old man wearing a Taoist robe, making waves in the wind and walking on them. With the rays of his hand, he could set off huge waves that even covered the sun and moon. Although he could not see, I don't know what the old man in Taoist robes looks like, but judging from his figure, he seems to be an old man from Lishan. As for the depths of the clouds and mists, it is even more exaggerated. It is said that the old poisons in the depths of the clouds and mists can rejuvenate themselves. After 9 reincarnations, they can step into the realm of land warriors. Qian Shangxue counted all the family treasures and continued, in short, the ancient martial arts world is not as simple as you think. The martial god realm above Shenzong is the strongest of ancient martial arts. At the same time, a voice as gentle as jade came from the side. When Su Yang heard the word Suwuji, he shook his head, and then said, although I don't know what the crisis is in Jufeng Mountain, if great-grandpa appears, I will definitely ask him to come forward. The entire Jufeng Mountain people are looking forward to Suwuji. As for making friends with Su Yang, it is just a way to get on the Su family's chariot. Because in their opinion, only Su Wuzi has this strength. As for my grandfather's realm, he didn't tell me, but he told me that he would try his best to die with the head of the Ximen family. Ever since the Qi practitioners of the pre-Qin dynasty disappeared, the earth began to practice ancient martial arts. Over such a long period of time, it is inevitable that there will be amazing and talented people who continue to break the ceiling of the strength of ancient martial arts. At the end, Qian Shangxue became serious. I only hope that after Senior Su Wuzi comes back, he can solve the crisis in our Jufeng Mountain. Any system that has been practiced to its peak is worthy of admiration. Shuer, you've come to Wudang, et. Who is the young man next to you? If you want to attack the Ximen family, just let us know. We at Jufeng Mountain will fully assist you. Next. Therefore, Qian Shangxue smiled softly and said, the strongest person in Jufeng Mountain is my grandfather Qian Shat. He had the honor to meet Senior Su Wuzi and got some advice from Senior Su Wuzi. Su Yang said with firm eyes, overwhelming murderous intent emerged from his body, and the moonlight dimmed a little, as if he was afraid. Similarly, they believe that there is only one way for the Su family to truly return to its peak, and that is for Suwuji to show up. We've talked about everything that needs to be said. P.S. Tomorrow will be more exciting, it will fill a big hole, let's give it a try first, haha, everyone, watch the video, give me a free gift, give it a like if possible, thank you. Correct. However, I want to resolve the feud between the Su family and the Ximen family myself. But if you think about it carefully, you can understand that the earth has entered the age of final dharma for thousands of years. I once said that after hundreds of sects competed in martial arts, Dingjiao Ximen was stained with blood on the Kunlun Mountains. At this time, Su Yang smiled and said, Shuer, you may not know about other places, but you must be familiar with Jufeng Mountain. After all, you are the leader of the 9 sections. Do you have any martial arts masters in Jufeng Mountain? However, he wanted to re-examine the ancient martial arts system. He didn't expect that practicing ancient martial arts could be practiced to the point of resonance between heaven and earth. It was indeed a bit exaggerated. However, Ali, Su Zing, Su Yuyu, and Wang Fugui were not outside. Haha, this is interesting. Grandpa. I don't know that either. Su Yang and Qian Shangxue returned to Wudang ancient town side by side and strolled to Chungguang Tower. Su Yang smiled softly, not worrying about his own safety at all. And Qian Shangxue looked at Su Yang, smiled and said, Su Yang, you must have known about the Su family's grudge. Now that the Ximen family has taken over the magpie's nest, I guess you will fight back. They believed that the person who resolved the crisis in Jufeng Mountain must be Su Wuzi. Qian Shangxue, as well as the entire Jufeng Mountain, believed in the words of the old master of the Tianji sect and concluded that the Su family was the only one who could save Jufeng Mountain. Since Ali said that he can cope with this realm, he must be confident. When Qian Shangxue saw Su Yang's expression, she suddenly lost consciousness and was deeply attracted. She felt like a deer was jostling in her heart, and she couldn't calm down for a long time. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 455. Su Yang's eyes then fell on the young man who was striding over, and he frowned slightly. This man was wearing a dark robe, with handsome features, and a gloomy aura exuding from his body. Of course, the reason why Su Yang frowned was because he detected a special smell on him. The smell was exactly the same as that of the mid-level Shenzone master who killed his eldest cousin Shijoshin not long ago. In other words, this young man must be acquainted with the killer. And this young man is naturally Mr. Mo Deo, who has been pursuing Jian Shangxiu for a long time. At this time, although Mo Deo had a smile on his face, there was a fierce look in his eyes, clearly harboring ill intentions towards Su Yang. His name is Su Yang. Jian Shangxiu didn't even look at Mo Deo, and introduced in a calm tone, he is Xing and Yu Yu's father. Su Yang. After learning Su Yang's identity, Mo Deo was instantly furious, and his hatred for Su Yang was undisguised. How? Su Yang met Mo Deo's gaze and said with a half-smile, "Sir, do you know me?" Snort. Mo Deo stared at Su Yang, his face as dark as water, and said coldly, "Su Yang, I have already inquired about what happened 5 years ago. You, a dandy full of evil, actually broke into Schwer's room while drunk, and made her. Damn bitch, in the past few years, I have wanted to go to Jiangbei more than once to settle accounts with you, but I never went." Mo Deo narrowed his eyes slightly, a cloud of poisonous mist emerged from his palm, and said in a deep voice, "Since we have met here, I will naturally not let you go. Today, I will teach you a lesson for Schwer, a dandy who is worse than a pig or a dog." He. Seeing this, Su Yang sneered, "Who are you? What does the matter between Schwer and I have to do with you? I am Lushan Mo Deo, known as Mr. Mo Deo." Mo Deo introduced his name, and then said angrily, "Su Yang, Schwer and I have known each other since childhood. We are childhood sweethearts. You hurt her, so I am naturally qualified to seek revenge from you." Harm. Haha, it's nonsense. I have never hurt Schwer. I just brought her endless happiness. Su Yang smiled playfully, "Otherwise, how could she have given birth to a pair of twins for me?" Su Yang could tell that the Mo Deo in front of him should be Jian Shangxiu's suitor. This person's strength is not weak, but it also depends on who he is competing with. He is at best a half-step divine section. Even if he has some means, he can hardly reach the level of elegance. Su Yang still didn't look down on ancient warriors at this level. But before taking action, Su Yang planned to torture this guy. Endless joy. As expected, after hearing Su Yang's words, Mo Deo's eyes turned red, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Su Yang. Dirty villain, you can say such things. Haha, you're stupid." Su Yang glanced at Mo Deo with disdain, then said, "There's one thing you don't know yet. Who told you that I forced Schwer 5 years ago? That night, it was obviously her choice, and she even took the initiative to have sex with me," Su Yang continued. "You're talking nonsense." Mo Deo became angry and growled, "Schwer is definitely not that kind of person. If you continue to slander his innocence, I will kill you without a burial place. Am I talking nonsense?" Su Yang hugged his arms and smiled and said, "Mo Deo, right? Please use your brain and think about it. 5 years ago, I was just a playboy, with no power to control a chicken. And Schwer, you should know what my strength was at that time, right? No matter how bad she is still stronger than me. Can I force her?" Su Yang smiled playfully. "Also, after that night, she became pregnant. She could obviously choose to abort the child, but why didn't she do it? If you don't understand, let me tell you. In fact, she has been deeply obsessed with me for a long time, so she is reluctant to abort the child and wants to continue the family line for me." Mo Deo was confessing his love sincerely. Su Yang became angry and immediately raised his hand. Master Mo Deo, I clearly rejected you, but you always pester me for your wishful thinking. In an instant. Haha, are you feeling uncomfortable? You dare to attack me, you are overestimating your own abilities. Hee hee. Schwetter. Mo Deo glanced at Su Yang disdainfully, then looked at Jian Shan Shui, and said sadly, Schwetter, you know very well how I feel about you after so many years. Am I no better than a playboy? 5 years ago, with Schwetter's strength, it was impossible for her to be forced by a playboy. I don't mind, Schwetter. I think Yu and Zing are very cute. I like them very much. I'm willing to accept you. And I will do my best to be a good stepfather, treat them as my own, and prevent them from suffering. A little aggrieved. Su Yang smiled softly, then put away his smile the next moment, and said with a serious face, this is just the beginning, the woman who misses me, I will let you know what will happen next. Mo Deo gritted his teeth and his face looked as ugly as pig liver. Go away, you trashy dude, I can kill you with one palm of my hand, you have no right to scream in front of me. This. Qian Shangxiu nodded seriously without explaining too much, just taking this opportunity to make Mo Deo give up. At this moment, Su Yang's slap came down and hit Mo Deo directly on the face. I'm not Sister Li. Under the pressure of Qian Shangxiu, Mo Deo did not dare to fight back. To be precise, he was unable to fight back, and he could not mobilize his true energy. Also, even if you are pregnant, you can have an abortion, so why choose to give birth? Snapped. Su Yang looked at Mo Deo, patted the other party's shoulder, and smiled softly, brother, are you clear now? He thought about it carefully and realized that Su Yang was right. Mo Deo looked at Jian Shangxiu next to him, with a sad expression on his face, and couldn't help but ask, is what Su Yang said true? You can also say the word Schwetter. Mo Deo sneered again, and then used the poisonous mist in his palm to kill Su Yang. What? Su Yang did not let go of Mo Deo, strode forward, grabbed Mo Deo's clothes, and punched him several times. The black poisonous mist in the palm of Mo Deo disappeared. He stood on the spot, not daring to move rashly, as if he was forced to stand. Mo Deo said affectionately, as long as you marry me, I promise to treat you well, Schwetter, I. At this time, Qian Shangxiu noticed it, and stood still without moving. With just one look, there was a dark and cold aura, and he locked Mo Deo instantly. Qian Shangxiu said calmly, I will say it again today, it is impossible between us. I have already given birth to a child for Su Yang. After Su Yang beat him for a while, there was a killing intent in his eyes, and he was ready to kill Mo Deo. Mo Deo's face turned pale in an instant, with overwhelming anger emerging from his eyes as he stared at Su Yang. But Jian Shangxiu next to him said, Su Yang, Wudaing ancient town, you can't kill people, otherwise you will be expelled. Your goal is to compete with hundreds of sects, don't lose big for small things. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 456. When Su Yang heard this, he gave up the idea of killing Mo Deo and said coldly, bullshit, Queen of the 100 Sex Martial Arts Competition, I want your soul to fly to the sky. After being beaten with Mo Deo, Su Yang's anger diminished a bit. He turned around and walked to Jian Shangxiu. He smiled softly and said, Schwetter, actually you don't need to suppress him with your breath. I can beat this guy up. I know, but the 100 Sex Martial Arts Competition hasn't started yet, so keep a low profile, Jian Shangxiu said in a low voice. Schwetter is still thoughtful, haha. Su Yang smiled, and then took Jian Shangxiu's hand. Qian Shangxiu did not refuse and allowed Su Yang to hold his hand. Damn it! At this time, Amodeo, with a bruised nose and swollen face, got up from the ground, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said with a complicated expression, "Schwerer, you actually helped an outsider suppress me." Su Yang is not an outsider. Qian Shangxiu responded in a cold tone, "He is my man, the father of Yu Yu and Zeng. To me, you are the outsider. Did you hear that? Get out of here," Su Yang said coldly. "You." Amodeo stared at Su Yang, with murderous intent in his eyes, and said angrily, "Su Yang, okay, I, Amodeo, will record today's shame. Aren't you going to participate in the 100 sex martial arts competition? Haha, on the stage, regardless of life or death, you'd better pray that you don't meet me, otherwise I will let you die on the stage." After leaving some threatening words, Amodeo looked at Jian Shan Shui and said affectionately, "Schwerer, I am sincere to you. Even if you help Su Yang hurt me, my love for you will still not diminish. I will kill Su Yang and make you a widow, and by then, I will give you and the children a warm home." After saying that, Amodeo was about to walk into Chunguang Tower. But as soon as he took 2 steps, he realized that he couldn't enter the brothel in front of Qian Shangxiu, otherwise Schwerer would definitely hate him. Then, Amodeo turned around in a hurry and showed an embarrassed smile, "Haha, I'm a road warrior. I'm not familiar with this place and I went in the wrong direction. In fact, the hotel I booked is on the east side. Hey, Mr. Amodeo, what are you doing? The water has been put away for you. According to your request, 10 girls are waiting nearby, just waiting for your favor." Unexpectedly, as soon as Amodeo finished speaking, the steward of Chunguang Tower came out and greeted Amodeo politely, with a flattering smile on his face. "Shut up. You got the wrong person. When did I ask you to arrange this? Don't you want to frame me?" Amodeo was extremely embarrassed, his face turned dark, he scolded the manager harshly, and then walked away in despair. He. Seeing Amodeo leave, Qian Shangxiu smiled and said, "It's ridiculous to be acting. Whether you go to a brothel or not, I don't care what it has to do with me." "Schwerer." Su Yang joked, "There are 10 girls here. I want to give it a try and challenge my bottom line, is that okay?" "Go and give it a try," Qian Shangxiu said with a gentle tone, half smiling. The gentlest tone, the cruelest meaning. Cough. Su Yang couldn't help but shudder and said quickly, "You're just kidding, I won't go to the club, it's boring." "That's pretty much it?" Qian Shangxiu smiled and said, "I said, you can raise many women, but if you dare to find a woman in the club, I will make you unable to be a man for the rest of your life." "No, no, no, I really won't go." Su Yang swallowed in fear. "Cousin, what's going on? I saw you fighting just now. Who bullied you?" At this moment, Shi Jushin suddenly appeared and said with sharp eyes, "Tell my cousin, I will help you solve it. You can't kill him." "Haha, cousin." Su Yang came back to his senses and smiled softly, "It's okay, it's just a little guy. I have already beaten him away." "Ah, that's good." Shi Jushin breathed a sigh of relief, and then saw Su Yang holding Qian Shangxiu's hand, and said with a smile, "Cousin, please introduce me, who is this lady?" "He is my woman, Qian Shangxiu." Su Yang smiled and said, "Schwerer, this is my eldest cousin, Taishan Shi Jushin, hurry up and call someone." "Hello, cousin," Qian Shangxiu greeted politely. "Okay, brothers and sisters, how about you?" "Wait, Qian Shangxiu." Shi Jushin paused, his eyes full of surprise, and couldn't help but ask, "Brother and sister, the leader of Jufeng Mountain in southern Anhui, also called Qian Shan Shui, you?" "It's me." Qian Shangxiu didn't hide anything. "What?" Shi Jushin took a step back in fright, his face full of shock, and said in disbelief, "It is said that Jian Shangxiu, the leader of the Nine-Sect Alliance, has obtained the inheritance of Jufeng Mountain. At the age of more than 20 years old, he is already at the peak of the Shen zone. Brother and sister, you didn't lie to me, did you?" Qian Shui smiled and did not explain, but released a cold air. This. Shi Jushin was immediately convinced. He clasped his fists respectfully and said, "Shi Jushin of Mount Tai has met the leader of the 9 sections. Young Master Shi, you're welcome. You are Su Yang's eldest cousin, and that's my eldest cousin. You don't have to stick to the secular world," Qian Shangxiu said with a gentle smile, not asserting his identity. "Ha ha." Su Yang then said, "Eldest cousin, why are you so polite to your younger siblings? Stop holding on and relax." Shi Jushin nodded, then thought of something, and said, "By the way, cousin, on my way to the inn, I passed by here and saw the 2 people who were traveling with you. There were 2 children with them. I have already settled them in the inn where I live. Right now, in Wudang Ancient Town, guest rooms are the most in demand. I might as well book more. Cousin, you can come over too. It's convenient for me to take care of you," Shi Jushin invited. "Okay, I won't be polite to my eldest cousin." Su Yang smiled and didn't even say thank you, because it was not necessary for my family. "Haha, I should." Shi Jushin smiled softly, and then said, "Brothers and sisters, are you coming together?" "No, I have a place to stay, plus I am the referee of this year's 100 sex martial arts competition, so there are a lot of trivial matters." Qian Shangxiu rejected Shi Jushin's kindness, and then said, "Su Yang, it's getting late. You and your cousin should go to rest and recharge your batteries to prepare for tomorrow." After saying that, Qian Shangxiu jumped into the sky and left the scene. Watching Qian Shui go away, Su Yang smiled softly and said, "Leave as soon as you say, you need training. I will take good care of you in the future. My cousin, I don't want to say this casually. Qian Shangxiu is very powerful and is the best among the elders. You must not offend him," Shi Jushin said hurriedly. "Haha, no matter how strong you are, you still gave me 2 babies." Su Yang curled his lips and said. "Well." Shi Jushin paused, then reacted and said in shock, "My cousin is amazing. I've long heard that Qian Shangxiu got pregnant unexpectedly 5 years ago and gave birth to a pair of twins. I didn't expect it to be with you, haha, you are indeed my cousin." Shi Jushin couldn't help but ask, "Where are my nephew and niece? Have they come to Wudang?" "Coming." Su Yang smiled and said, "They are the 2 children you just saw here." "I see, no wonder they are so cute. I liked them as soon as I saw them. They turn out to be my aunt's grandchildren, ha ha ha." Shi Jushin said excitedly, "Cousin, I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to find my cousin, nephew, and niece." With that said, Shi Jushin couldn't wait to leave without even looking back. Fuck. "Cousin, where did you book the inn? Please tell me at least." Su Yang was confused. Of course, he was just making a casual comment. If he wanted to know where the inn was, all he had to do was follow Shi Jushin, and he could also lock down the location of Ali and others. But Su Yang did not do this, but narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the Chunguang Tower in front of him. The Chunguang Tower was indeed surrounded by death energy, and it was very strong. But because someone deliberately hid it, even the top masters in the ancient martial arts world could not detect it. Although Su Yang didn't have a good impression of the ancient martial arts world, he had seen too many lives in ruins. He even personally overturned a city full of sin. But Qian Shangxiu seemed to be very concerned and did not want to cause trouble in the ancient martial arts world, so Su Yang naturally had to take care of her feelings. In addition, the death energy inside comes from the same source as the demonic cultivators on the 2nd floor of the Void Tower. Taking everything into account, Su Yang decided to go in and find out what was going on. Shuer just doesn't want me to touch the women in the brothel. It's not a big problem for me to go to the brothel. Besides, I'm investigating the dead energy. Su Yang smiled, and then strode into the Chunguang Tower. The steward hurriedly came up to greet me and showed a flattering smile. "Master, please come in. Now that you have entered Chunguang Tower, you must arrange for a few beauties to accompany you, otherwise you will arouse suspicion." Therefore, under the arrangement of the steward, Su Yang entered a room on the third floor with his arms around two beauties in ancient costumes. "Sir, my servant will change your clothes." The two antique beauties smiled charmingly and began to take off Su Yang's clothes. Su Yang didn't have any more words to say. He raised his hand and received two bursts of spiritual energy, which instantly caused the two of them to fall into coma. After taking care of the two beauties, he sat cross-legged on the bed and started to explore with his spiritual consciousness. This death energy is very strong, and those who control it must not be simple. Without knowing the opponent's strength, Su Yang didn't want to conduct a large-scale search. Firstly, I am worried that I will not be able to defeat the opponent, and secondly, I am afraid of alerting the enemy, but if I use my spiritual sense to detect him, I am not afraid of being discovered. But even after entering Chunguang Tower, Su Yang's consciousness still couldn't pinpoint the specific location of the death energy. Therefore, Su Yang planned to forcefully open the second floor of the Void Tower and communicate with the demon cultivators inside. Next, Su Yang arranged a simple formation. As long as someone approaches, he will know it immediately. After the preparations were completed, Su Yang calmed down and began to try to open the second floor of the Void Tower. About half an hour later, Su Yang succeeded. Buzz. At this time, in Su Yang's mind, the Void Tower was floating, emitting a strong light. Su Yang himself entered the second floor of the Void Tower in his soul state. There is nothingness here, boundless as far as the eye can see, pitch black, like a chaotic universe. But in the void, there was a person sitting cross-legged, in ragged clothes, with long and messy hair, and a beard that almost caught up with the hair of urban women. His body was still covered with dust, and he had obviously been sitting quietly for a long, long time. "Who are you?" At this time, he felt someone appearing, so he opened his eyes and stared at Su Yang. Aha! At the same time, two rays of light shot out from the man's eyes, carrying terrifying power, pressing towards Su Yang. Powerful. This person's strength is too strong. At least he has condensed the golden elixir, and he is a cultivator in the elixir forming stage. But Su Yang didn't panic at all, and there was even a hint of disdain in his eyes. He stood there without moving, and shouted in a low voice, "How dare you show murderous intent towards me?" Buzz. As Su Yang roared, in an instant, there was a mighty force that swept over the demon cultivator's soul. If he were outside, Su Yang would definitely not be a match for this demonic cultivator, and would not even be able to fight back. But this is the inside of the Void Tower, and Su Yang is the master of the Void Tower and controls the Void Tower. Here, Su Yang is the sky, the law, and the only master. No one can hurt him. This is why Su Yang dares to enter the Void Tower in his soul state. At this moment, the demonic cultivator felt the mighty power and was immediately frightened. He was so frightened that he hurriedly avoided it. Unfortunately, in the Void Tower, Su Yang dominates everything and fights whoever he wants. Boom! After a muffled sound, the demon cultivator was knocked away and was in a very embarrassed state. Of course, Su Yang had to show mercy, otherwise the soul of the demon cultivator could be directly obliterated. You can control the 9-story glazed tower." The soul of the demon cultivator was shocked, and asked with a trembling voice, "Who are you?" "My name is Su Yang, and the Suwazi who suppressed you back then was my great-grandfather." Su Yang said half-truthfully, "Now, more than 100 years have passed, and the Void Tower has been passed on to me. Now I want to ask you a few questions. If you can answer me truthfully, maybe I can spare your life. Otherwise, your soul will be gone in the next second. Impossible. How can you mobilize the 9-story glazed pagoda? This pagoda will not surrender to anyone except that person. The soul of the demon cultivator showed an expression of disbelief, obviously not believing what Su Yang said. He. Su Yang sneered, and then took a step forward. The space in the tower immediately began to tremble, and a majestic power gathered behind him, as if it would be crushed out at any time. With the blessing of this power, Su Yang raised the corners of his mouth and said coldly, "Now, do you believe it? You can really control the Void Tower." Seeing this, the soul of the demon cultivator was immediately convinced. He looked at Su Yang with a complicated expression and said as if to confirm, "You said you are Suwaji's great-grandson." Su Yang nodded and said, "Not bad." "Then do you know who I am?" The demon cultivator looked at Su Yang and asked. "I heard that you were the leader of the Gaiming section. You massacred people all over the city and were suppressed by my great-grandfather," Su Yang said truthfully. "It is true, but..." The demon cultivator looked at Su Yang with tears in his eyes, and then revealed a shocking secret, "I am also your great-grandfather, Suwazi." Su Yang was stunned for a moment, with astonishment written all over his face, but he soon came to his senses and said coldly, "Impossible, my great-great-grandfather is a genius who has dominated an era, and you are a demon cultivator full of evil. You stop playing tricks and better answer my questions." "Why?" After hearing this, the demon cultivator sighed deeply and seemed to be lost in memories. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 457. At this moment, Su Yang was full of doubts. The infamous Gaiming sect leader is his great-grandfather Suwazi? How can this be? Great-grandpa dominated an era, during which he controlled the entire world. All the famous mountain sects in the ancient martial arts world were like ants in front of him. Although he was powerful all over the world, my great-grandfather did not bully the world and acted openly and honestly. According to Qian Shangxiu, his grandfather once received guidance from his great-grandfather Suwazi, which shows his great-grandfather's character. And this demon cultivator has killed countless people, has no respect for life, and has brought disaster to the people of the world. How could these two be the same person? The most important thing is that Grandpa personally suppressed the demon cultivator and imprisoned him in the Void Tower. Suppress yourself? What a joke! Snort. With this thought in his mind, Su Yang snorted coldly, stared at the demon cultivator, and said coldly, "You think I'm stupid, don't you? My great-grandfather personally took action to suppress you, and many people saw that battle. You have just admitted that you have massacred hundreds of thousands of people, so you can't be my great-grandfather." At the end of the sentence, Su Yang sneered, "In a battle between two people, will my great-great-grandfather fight himself? Your name is Su Yang, right?" The soul of the demon cultivator met Su Yang's gaze, his eyes full of kindness, and explained, "My child, I can swear to God that everything I said is true. I am your great-grandfather, you can call me Suwazi, or you can call me Su-Mo," Shiu soul said seriously. Su Yang stared at the demon cultivator's soul, trying to see if he was lying. However, this person is not weak in strength and has successfully built the foundation more than 100 years ago. Although he was injured by Grandpa, only his soul was imprisoned in the Void Tower. But the Void Tower is not ordinary. In addition, this person is extremely talented, even in the Xiantian Star territory, he is also a top talent. His soul has been strengthened in the Void Tower, and his soul power has become extremely pure. If he hadn't had a physical body, I'm afraid he would have already condensed the nascent soul and became a monk in the nascent soul realm. Therefore, Su Yang couldn't see through his heart and couldn't tell whether this person was lying. You said you are my great-grandfather, so please explain my confusion just now. Su Yang's eyes flashed, and he said in a deep voice, if you can't explain it, or if you can't explain it, I will destroy you physically and mentally. You kid, why are you talking to Grandpa? Su Emo looked at Su Yang dissatisfied, his tone full of accusation. I'll let you explain. Su Yang did not talk to him too much, but took a step forward, and the surrounding space twisted and deformed with overwhelming power. Okay, okay. I'll make it clear to you right now. Seeing this, Su Emo hurriedly said, as I said just now, my name is Suwuji, also known as Su Emo. In comparison, I prefer the name Su Emo. There are not many restrictions. I can act freely and do not need to care. Anyone's vision will go their own way and indulge in everything between heaven and earth, haha. Stop talking nonsense and focus on the key points, Su Yang urged. You kid, you are so rebellious. At this moment, Su Yang frowned and said to himself, who passed on the selfless magic skill to great-grandfather? That senior was the creator of the selfless divine art. He was invincible in the universe for tens of thousands of years, but unfortunately he died in the end. Su Yang finally wiped out the enemy, but he couldn't make up for it. But the remnant soul of that senior was destroyed by the enemy while protecting Su Yang. The remnant soul of that senior did not let Su Yang practice the selfless magic technique, but taught Su Yang another top-notch technique. Unexpectedly, his great-grandfather Suwuji actually practiced the selfless magic skill, which surprised Su Yang. This, what else do you know? Su Emo asked in surprise. Selfless demonic skill, Su Yang answered quickly, his expression even more confused. Su Yang looked serious and did not answer, but continued, the person who created this technique is an extremely powerful person, invincible in the world for tens of thousands of years. Su Yang couldn't be more familiar with this technique. Su Emo opened his mouth and scolded Su Yang like an elder. However, seeing Su Yang getting angry, he hurriedly explained, my child, you don't know something. Su Yang guessed, could it be that there are still people who would pass the magic skill to me when they see that Grandpa is suitable for practicing it? There was a look of reminiscence in Sumo's eyes, and he continued, the art of selfless heaven is terrible and ridiculously powerful. According to the immortal, in the star field where he is, the art of selfless heaven is among the best among the best. How do you know this? Su Emo was shocked and looked at Su Yang in disbelief. This technique has a special characteristic. If you want to truly practice it, you must practice it in a favorable and unfavorable way. Hearing this, Su Emo showed a hint of surprise. How do you know it's called selfless demonic skill? Strangeness. What followed was the normal routine, with Su Yang relying on the guidance of the residual soul to achieve the emperor fruit. When the remnant soul of his predecessor disappeared, he was extremely unwilling and told Su Yang that he must find a suitable candidate to pass on the selfless magic. If the magic reappears, he will die without regrets. Selfless magic power. When Su Yang was in the Xiantian immortal domain, he grew up step by step to become the immortal emperor because he received the inheritance from a senior, then pretended to be a pig and ate the tiger, becoming stronger along the way. Looking at the whole world, I should be the only one who knows how to practice. I have never even met my great-grandfather, so there is no way I can teach it to him. However, throughout the ages, no one has practiced the selfless heaven technique. Even the person who created this technique has not practiced it to the last step. One person practices the selfless demonic art, and the other practices the selfless heavenly art. After reaching the peak, the two merge into one, and they will become the most powerful existence in the world, surpassing the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and no one can match it. Before he died, he was unwilling, and a trace of his soul entered the mind of the ordinary young man Su Yang. Naturally, Su Yang would not refuse and respectfully sent away the remnant soul of his senior who was both his teacher and friend. Suemo looked at Su Yang and continued, there is another name for the selfless heavenly skill, which is called selfless. Not everyone is suitable for cultivating the selfless magical skill. It requires very high qualifications, especially willpower, and the character must be tough. Otherwise, not only will it fail to be practiced, but it will fall into the devil's path and suffer the consequences. Back then, there was a great man who came from outer space and came to Earth. Because this technique was created by one of his mentors. Therefore, selfless heavenly power. Su Yang responded, once you choose to follow a fellow practitioner, your soul will be split in two, and another body will be created with the flesh and blood of hundreds of thousands of holy spirits, and then the other half of the soul will take over. That man saw that I was quite talented, so he taught me a mysterious and powerful cultivation technique called selfless heaven technique. This technique is a selfless heavenly technique when practiced along the way, and a selfless demonic technique when practiced backwards. It requires absorbing blood, essence, and soul. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 458. This guess is somewhat untenable. But Su Yang really couldn't figure out who was the person who taught Grandpa the magic of selflessness. If the great grandfather really practiced the divine art of selflessness, then the demon cultivator in front of him might really be another body of great-grandfather. In other words, he is also Su Yang's great-grandfather. This is what I am thinking about. Su Yang's eyes fell on Suemo and asked doubtfully, do you know who taught Suwuji the selfless magic art? You brat, you call me grandpa by his first name. There are no rules at all. Is this what Sukinkan taught you? Suemo said angrily. Shut up. Su Yang said coldly, I haven't confirmed your identity yet, you'd better be more honest with me. Answer me, who is the person who taught the technique? While talking, Su Yang used the power of the Void Tower to press against Suemo. I said. Suemo immediately shuddered and replied, since you understand the selfless divine art, you must also know that the split soul will not have all the memories of the original soul. I am Suwuzi from the dark side. I am greedy, timid, bloodthirsty, cunning, all the dark sides have been broken down, so that I can practice selfless magic. Suemo continued, in my memory, I only know that there was a strong man at the level of the immortal emperor who crossed the boundless void and came to the earth and passed the skills to me. I have no memory of that person. Suwuji, who has practiced the art of selflessness, must know that he has retained all his good sides. Suemo looked at Su Yang, a strange look flashed in his eyes, and then asked, my child, it has only been more than 100 years ago. It stands to reason that the other me is still alive. Haven't you met him? No. Su Yang said, after suppressing you, Suwuji touched the threshold of nascent soul and passed the tribulation not long after. As for the outcome of the tribulation, no one knows. Since then, Suwuji has not shown up, and now his life or death is uncertain. That's it. Then I'll be relieved. Suemo couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he heard this. Rest assured. When Su Yang heard this, he narrowed his eyes slightly and asked, your name is Suemo, but you are also Suwuzi. If you want to practice the selfless magic art to the strongest level, you need to combine the two into one. Suwuji disappeared and you don't know whether you are alive or dead. Why do you look so happy? This. Suemo paused, then sighed, and said, hey, kid, you don't know something. Suwuji's heart is as high as the sky, and he is determined to practice the complete selfless magic skill, so he chooses to practice the skill in reverse, create me, and let me kill for the rest of my life to increase my strength. Suemo continued, but after all the dark sides were eliminated, Suwuji became a saint, compassionate and caring about the suffering of the world. When he saw that I was practicing selfless magic and killing too many creatures, he couldn't sit still. He tried to destroy me many times and gave up practicing the authentic selfless magic. But I am so smart. I have escaped his pursuit several times, even at the cost of hundreds of thousands of people. My strength has increased rapidly, and I can be on an equal footing with him. Suemo continued, at that time, Suwuji came after me and wanted to punish me. But I am not a vegetarian. I fought with him for hundreds of rounds, regardless of winning or losing. In the end, I don't know what happened, but the 9-story glazed pagoda was touched. This pagoda, also called the Void Tower, was left by the big shot to Suwuzi and asked Suwuzi to keep it for him. At this time, Suemo said bitterly, "Child, you judge, Suwuji obviously split me apart, but in the end he wanted to get rid of me for a group of unrelated people. Please tell me if you are angry. You want to ask me about the unknown birth of a cultivator," Suemo said with a soft smile. If what he said is true, then it is difficult for Su Yang to judge this matter. Why? I know this. Since you are my great-grandson, it doesn't hurt to tell you. Su Yang nodded and said, I heard that unknown things will happen to the body of cultivators when they step into the realm of pill formation. What is going on? Suemo said angrily, those extremely powerful people are high above, looking down at the earth, and their posture is extremely arrogant. They are even more bloodthirsty than me, who has practiced the selfless demonic art. Why? In their eyes, the earth is a testing ground that is as humble as the bottom. Suemo gritted his teeth and said, with the blessing of the Void Tower, I am no match for Suwuzi. My body has been destroyed, but he dare not destroy my soul. As for the Void Tower, it belongs to Su Yang, a selfless magical skill. It stands to reason that only Su Yang knows how to practice it. Good. These two people are both Suwuzi, and Su Yang can't judge who is right and who is wrong. After thinking for a moment, Su Yang said, Suemo, how much do you know about the laws of heaven on earth? Suemo sighed again, and then said, they are the way of heaven and represent the laws of the earth. Do you know why the pre-Qin Chi practitioners suddenly disappeared en masse thousands of years ago, and where did they go? Suemo smiled softly, and then said, Child, do you know what the earth is in the eyes of the surrounding star field? In all the surrounding star fields, there are powerful masters who can destroy the heaven and earth. There are even some people who can destroy a vast star field with just one thought. Su Yang was thinking about a question in his mind. He had also heard about the person Suemo mentioned from his father. Suemo sighed and said, the universe is vast and endless. There are countless star fields. The earth is just one of them, and it is the weakest one. So, Suwuji asked the Void Tower to trap me on the second floor. This trap lasted for more than 100 years. Su Yang frowned deeply, puzzled and simply stopped thinking about it. Having said this, Suemo showed a playful smile and continued, because I am him and he is me. Although my soul is gone, Suwuzi will not die, but his soul will definitely be severely damaged. But who is this person, why is he doing this, and what is he planning? All people on earth are as lowly as ants. No, to be precise, they are even worse than ants. Did someone take away my Void Tower, learn the selfless magic skill from somewhere, and then run to the earth and pass it on to my great-grandfather? Who is that person? Now, you said the earth is a testing ground, what do you mean? Su Yang asked doubtfully. Su Yang was skeptical about Sumo's words. Some time ago, when my father confessed, he once said that there was an invincible strong man who taught the great-grandfather the cultivation techniques and entrusted the 9-story glazed pagoda to the great-grandfather. Suwuji has Suwuji's way, and Suemo has Sumo's way. The two go in opposite directions. Su Yang's eyes fell on Suemo. If he was Suwuji who practiced the selfless magic skill, he would really be his great-grandfather. Su Yang shook his head and said he didn't know. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 459. I don't know, I'm also very confused. Su Yang shook his head and said, with so many cultivators, even if they are weak, it is impossible for them all to disappear quietly without leaving any traces. By the way, some people say that they left the earth through an ancient road in the starry sky. Is this true? Su Yang asked curiously. Yes. But, not entirely. Su Mo said seriously, the ancient starry sky road does exist and leads directly to the outside world. There are indeed some people among the pre-Qin Chi practitioners who have far-sighted vision and want to leave the earth and achieve higher achievements. But the real strong man at that time had already seen everything and was unwilling to set foot on the ancient road in the starry sky. Su Mo continued, they know that the earth is a testing ground, and there are a few big hands that are controlling the earth. In the eyes of those people, all earth monks are just playthings, insignificant playthings. Therefore, the powerful earth monks are unwilling to set foot on the ancient road in the starry sky, and they have formed an alliance to jointly study ways to fight against the foreign giants. Su Mo continued, actually, the earth is not inherently a weak star field. It has also been glorious, giving birth to countless strong men, and leaving many magic weapons and Tao fruits to the earth. Therefore, during that period of time, the strength of the earth's strong men increased by leaps and bounds. Su Mo recalled, this incident naturally alarmed the masters from outside the territory. They panicked and were afraid. They were afraid that the masters from the earth would grow to their level. Therefore, some immortal emperors from outside the territory came to the earth with the gate of time and space and brought them to the earth. All cultivators on earth, regardless of whether they are powerful or not, will pass through the gate of time and space and be sent to the outside world. At this point, the pre-Qin Chi practitioners disappeared en masse, and there was a gap among the earth's cultivators. Su Mo looked at Su Yang and smiled bitterly, child, do you know what those powerful people on earth are doing in other star fields? They're just coolies. Su Mo asked and answered himself, gritted his teeth and said, the immortal emperor from outside the territory, let the masters of the earth work as coolies in their own star domain to mine spiritual stones and build palaces. In short, what are they doing? After hearing this, Su Yang finally understood the reason why Suwuji was unwilling to enter the starry sky ancient road. In his last life, he had been in the Xiantian star territory for 100,000 years, but he had never heard of these things. It was probably because the Xiantian star territory was relatively far away from the earth. Su Mo. Su Yang looked at Su Mo, and then asked, why do those foreign masters treat the earth like this? What are they testing in the trial field? What is their purpose? Not sure. Su Mo shook his head and said, my memory is scattered. Suwuji may know the truth. But the goals of those extraterrestrial immortal emperors must have failed, and they are still disturbing the earth. Originally, the earth's spiritual energy was prosperous and it was an excellent place for cultivation, but they almost drained it of spiritual energy. Su Mo continued, after the pre-Qin Chi practitioners were sent away, there was a gap in cultivators. Those immortal emperors did not want to allow powerful cultivators to appear on the earth anymore, so they replaced the will of heaven and changed the rules of the Dao. So, as long as you break through to the realm of pill formation on earth, your birth will be unknown and you will be miserable. Su Mo sneered, in this way, cultivators in the realm of pill formation will either voluntarily leave the earth through the ancient road in the starry sky, or die in an unknown death. However, Suwuji and I have the treasure left by that big shot, so we can avoid the unknown. Having said this, Su Mo seemed to have thought of something, widened his eyes and said, wait a minute, the 9-story glazed tower is in your hands. This tower is the treasure that Suwuzi uses to suppress the unknown. Without the pagoda, Suwuzi will definitely be troubled by the bad luck. Suemo said in disbelief, how dare he give you the pagoda? Isn't this looking for death? I heard my dad mention this. Su Yang said, great-grandfather Suwazi, he does not obey the way of heaven, and wants to use his own power to go against the will of heaven and break the unknown. This. What a ruthless determination. Although he suppressed me and I hated him for more than 100 years, I admire his actions. I understand his character. He will definitely not set foot on the ancient road in the starry sky and go outside the territory to be someone else's slave. Seeing this, Su Yang stared at Suemo with blazing eyes and asked, since you and Suwuji are from the same origin, you also said that he would be hurt if you lost your soul. This. My child, what are you still hesitating about? You control the 9-story glazed tower and can release Grandpa with just one thought. You are my great-grandson, can I still treat you badly? Su Yang then said, well, I'll go find my grandfather now and ask him to call my aunt, second grandfather and third grandfather over. My grandfather is an only son. You don't even know how many daughters you have. Forget about Suwazi, my child. He is dead just in time. From now on, you will only have me as your great-grandfather. Remember, my name is Suemo, the devil's devil. Oh. Shut up. Su Yang pretended to recognize Sumo's identity and said, Grandpa Suemo, to be honest, Grandpa Suwuji told my grandpa before he left that he must guard the 9-story glazed tower and not let you out. Suemo tempted, if you think about it carefully, I can make you the king of the world and be respected by thousands of people. As long as he didn't go outside the territory and didn't have any treasures on him, he would have turned into white bones long ago, Suemo said with a playful smile. Then. Suemo smiled excitedly and said, if you emphasize the benefits of letting me out, my 4 children, including your grandfather, will definitely agree. Is this soul really the great-great-great-grandfather who has practiced the magic of selflessness? Son, what are you doing? I am your great-grandfather. How can you force your great-great-grandfather to kneel down? It is so treasonous, Suemo said through gritted teeth. Suemo smiled and encouraged, child, you will have everything in just one thought, don't hesitate. Su Yang was originally a little suspicious of Sumo's words, but after hearing this, he became even more suspicious. You can drink fine wines at will, choose beauties at will, and be served by people wherever you go. Don't you want this kind of life? By then, I will conquer the world and bring the Su family back to its peak. Suemo looked at Su Yang with scorching eyes and said, let Grandpa go out quickly and find a city for me. I will use the flesh and blood of hundreds of thousands of people to reshape my body. Su Yang looked at Suemo and smiled softly, Grandpa Suemo, your daughter is my aunt. Her behavior is quite similar to yours, so she will probably agree to let you out. Su Yang's face was as dark as water, he took a step forward and asked coldly, tell me, who are you? Suemo admired him at first, and then said firmly, however, Suwuji is looking for death. How can a mere monk break the laws of heaven? Suemo was stunned for a moment, and then explained casually, this pagoda is mysterious and isolated from everything, so I didn't feel it. To be honest, I, as a junior, cannot decide whether to release you or not, and they are all your sons and daughters. Let them decide. You seem very happy again. Ha ha ha, good boy, just do as you say. Thump. When Su Yang heard this, he immediately had the answer in his heart, his eyes turned cold instantly, and a huge power appeared in an instant, crushing Suemo and away. Su Yang remained unmoved and stared at Suemo, deciding to test him. Sumo's body suddenly couldn't bear it any longer and he knelt on the ground with a look of pain on his face. My grandfather also told me this, so I can't make any decisions without permission. So, if Suwuji died, you would also be hurt. Haven't you noticed it for more than 100 years? Su Yang asked. Suemo seduced, and you are the young master of the Su family. You are above hundreds of millions of people. You can do whatever you want. No one in the world dares to offend you. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 460. Su Yang never believed this guy who called himself Suemo. Sure enough, after a little probing, he revealed his secret. At this moment, Su Yang's face was as dark as water, his whole body exuded an aura of fear, and the space behind him was distorting. In the Void Tower, he is the rule and controls everything here. No, don't kill me. Seeing Su Yang getting angry, Sumo's heart trembled, and there was a cunning look in his eyes, but it was fleeting. After a pause for a few seconds, Suemo smiled bitterly and said, I didn't expect that I couldn't hide it from you. He is indeed a descendant of Suwuji. He is alert and sharp. No wonder he can be recognized by the 9-story glazed pagoda. I asked you to tell me your identity, don't tell me whether you have these or not, Su Yang said in a deep voice, and in his anger, the space behind him seemed to be splitting apart. I said. Suemo was extremely frightened, took a deep breath and said, your judgment is correct, I am not Suwuji's second body. But my name is indeed Suemo. Your great-grandfather Suwuji got this name. Suemo looked at Su Yang and continued, actually, I am, the master of the Void Tower. Huh, Su Yang raised his eyebrows. Don't doubt it, what I said is true, I can swear to God. Suemo fell into memories and said seriously, I was seriously injured and accidentally landed on Earth. It was Suwuji who rescued me and took me back to his home. At that time, I had lost all my aura and was just an ordinary person. I also had amnesia and didn't know my name. So Suwuji jokingly said that I would take his last name. As for the name Mo, I got it myself. Suemo continued, I remember that at that time, your great-grandfather was an ancient warrior. Compared with his peers, he was weak in strength. But I could tell at a glance that he was a good material for cultivation, so I passed on the selfless divine art to him. Suemo looked at Su Yang and saw that there was no change in Su Yang's face, so he continued, about 3 to 5 years later, he will successfully build the foundation and become stronger step by step. I also got some benefits from following him. My strength continued to recover, and my memory also recovered. It turns out that I am an immortal emperor from outside the territory. Because I was plotted against by my enemies, I was seriously injured and fled to Earth. Suemo said, in those years, your great-grandfather and I got along day and night. We were considered brothers who had passed away. We had a very good relationship, so I didn't choose to leave. In addition, my injury was relatively serious and I needed to recover slowly, so I continued to stay with Suwuji. After that, Suwuji condensed the golden elixir and entered the elixir forming stage, suffering from unknown troubles. Sumoi Ibo Yuntian said, he is my brother, how can I sit idly by and do nothing? It's just unknown. If I activate the Void Tower when I'm at my peak, I can instantly break the laws laid down by the immortal emperors from outside the territory, so that the earth will no longer be unknown, and everyone can cultivate. Suemo smiled bitterly and said, however, my injuries were too serious, and my storage ring was also blown up by my enemies. I have no other valuables on my body. Only the Void Tower can suppress the unknown. Therefore, I lent the Void Tower to Suwuji and asked him to keep it temporarily and return it to me in the future. Also, do you think I'm really easy to fool? If you are the master of the Void Tower, why would the Void Tower suppress you? It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Yasuemo nodded. That's it? Suemo looked at Su Yang and said seriously, child, I am your great-grandfather's best friend, and I can also be considered your great-grandfather. You can't kill me, otherwise it will be treason. And I don't belong to the earth. In addition, The technique I practice is quite special, so I avoid the unknown. Therefore, I did not ask your great-grandfather for the Void Tower. My child, although I lost to your great-grandfather, I don't hate him at all. It was he who helped me to prevent me from falling into the devil's path. Haha, this is a short section of the selfless magical skill. Wait a moment. It's not that he couldn't make me lose my soul, but he couldn't bear it, so he imprisoned me in the Void Tower. In those few years, I was eroded by hatred and wanted to become stronger. I returned to the outside world to settle accounts with my enemies. However, I was eager for quick success and was troubled by my inner demons. Suemo turned pale with fright and begged, "Su Yang, please don't kill me. If you don't believe it, you can ask your great-grandfather to confirm it. I have always valued my oaths. Now I can swear to God that everything I say will be fulfilled true." Why? I originally thought that I could defeat Suwuji with my own methods, but who would have thought that his talent is so terrifying, and the selfless divine art is simply tailor-made for him. When Su Yang heard this, he thought that Suemo had transmitted a piece of selfless magical art in his mind, and then asked, "Suemo, do you know this art?" Su Yang's eyes were cold, and he was about to use the power of the Void Tower to make Sumo's soul dissipate. "I'm serious this time," Suemo said with a trembling voice. "I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Now, you can die." Su Yang sneered and said, "You don't even know this, how dare you make up stories in front of me?" "Shut up." Suemo said gratefully, "If it weren't for Suwuzi, I'm afraid I would have been a walking zombie, thanks to him." Su Yang sneered, "Haha, you have sworn 3 times now, do you think I will believe it?" After hearing this, Suemo immediately fell silent and lowered his head to think about countermeasures. Su Yang questioned and threatened, "I want to hear the truth. If you dare to lie to me, I will not give you a chance to explain and will directly kill you." "This is exquisite." Su Yang stared at Suemo and sneered, "Suemo, since you have such a good relationship with my great-grandfather, why did he suppress you in the Void Tower? Then tell me, who are you and what is your identity?" After Su Yang listened to the story told by Suemo, a playful smile appeared on his lips. "Suemo, you said you were the one who passed the selfless magic skill to my great-grandfather." Suemo continued, "But who would have known that after your great-grandfather knew that I had slaughtered hundreds of thousands of people in order to improve my strength, he cut off my ties with me and even tried to conquer me." Suemo sighed, and then said, "It's not because I went crazy." Suemo was immediately overjoyed and couldn't help but ask, "My child, what kind of skill is this? Can you teach it all to me?" Suemo continued, "Some of the rumors you heard are true. I did kill hundreds of thousands of people just to become stronger, and finally entered the elixir formation stage." He. Sumo's guard was completely broken, and he said with a face full of fear, "Su Yang, I admit that I did lie to you about my identity, but your great-grandfather and I are really good friends. Swear to God." Suemo smiled bitterly and said, "In that battle, I was no match for Suwuzi. He used the Void Tower I gave him to defeat him.